Welcome to the Beach Travel Wine Podcast, episode 127. In this episode, we're heading to one of the most iconic and breathtaking places in Spain, the Alhambra in Granada. We'll take you with us from the stunning views at the Mirador San Nicolas to the intricate beauty of the Nasrid palaces, the fortress walls of the Alcazaba, and the peaceful gardens of the Generalife. This was actually our second visit to Alhambra, and we still think it's one of the most impressive places we've ever been. If you're planning a trip to Spain, this episode is full of tips and really helpful information about how to plan your day or night visit to Alhambra. Listen to the end to hear the story of how I bought 2 extra tickets to the same day, how much they cost, and why it was the best decision I made. Everything you need to know about visiting Alhambra is in this jam-packed episode, and if you want to see all the pictures that go with this episode, and you definitely should, then click the link to episode 127 in the podcast description on the player you are listening on now.
Buen dia, Leonita.
How are you today?
Perfect, thanks.
That's great. Me too.
Well, today we're going to talk about the magnificent Alhambra.
We are.
Now, Alhambra is a palace and fortress complex located in Granada in Spain.
I'm just going to put in here right at the beginning. I think it's one of, if not the most stunning historical sites in Spain, let alone Europe. Honestly, this is our second time there, as I said in the intro, and wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one of the most famous monuments of Islamic architecture and one of the best preserved palaces of the historic Islamic world. Additionally, the palace contains notable examples of Spanish Renaissance architecture. Now, it's 35 acres. At its peak, back in the 1200s to 1400s, there was about 2,000 people living there.
Is that including all the military people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Before the Muslims came, now they arrived in 711. But before them, there was the Visigoths, and they controlled Spain for about 200 years. And then before that, you had the Romans, and they controlled Spain for about 600 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then before that, it's basically prehistory, so there's nothing written down about it. Now, when did the Muslims conquer Spain?
And all this is important because this was a huge part of the Muslim kingdom.
Yeah,
Alhambra. That's why
we're
saying.
So basically, the Muslims they landed, basically come across at Gibraltar there, and then they just moved and just went further and further and further north. Now they say that they didn't go to northern Spain because it was too cold. But there's also the European mountains,
Picos de Europa.
Yes. So they never got there. The main area or the capital was basically Cordoba, but over time that disintegrated because of infighting, civil wars, and then that split up into more taifas, and those taifas were controlled more or less by governors. But that collapsed about 1031, and Alhambra started to build in 1238, and it took about 120 years to build. Now, I know you're going to ask me why it was called Alhambra.
Alhambra, because I know why.
Okay, give it the best shot.
We did actually talk about it in the previous podcast on Granada, so if people listen to that, they'll know. But there's a couple of reasons. One is because of the red hue that it has when you're looking at it, and Alhambra in Arabic means red.
Correct.
And the other reason is the guy who built it, the Sultan who started to build it, he had red hair. He was they called him Ginger, so they said they named it after him, the Alhambra. So
well done, Leonita. The Muslims finally collapsed in Granada, and that was around 1490. And that was when the Catholic monarchs came in, and there was the siege of Granada. What happened there, the current sultan, which was a guy by the name of Bad, he basically surrendered the Alhambra and Granada to save lives, basically. Yeah. He realised that they were never going to win, so they left. So that's now we're at Alhambra today.
When the Christians did come in and conquer the Moors, they destroyed a lot of the mosques and things. Like a lot of the cathedrals are built on top of mosques, etc. There was a lot of Alhambra that was destroyed, but they kept a lot of it because it was so beautiful.
Well, when the siege finally finished and there was an agreement, which was called the Treaty of Granada, part of that treaty was that they were going to let the Muslims still practice their religion and also their culture, and that lasted for about 9 years.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Alhambra today then. So it's, I guess, the most visited site in Spain.
Correct.
For obvious reasons. On Beach Travel Wine, episode 127 on the website, beachtravelwine.com, I've put photos of all these areas that we're going to be talking about. And the first lot of photos is the view of Alhambra from the Mirador de St. Nicholas. And that's one of the best views you can get looking at. And you actually get the whole size of it. You can really appreciate how big it is. Yeah. That's the first thing. A couple of things, though, I think to mention is a couple of hints about going to Alhambra. We need to talk about that. Now, you do need to buy your tickets ahead of time because it is the most visited site in Spain. When we were there lining up, people trying to buy tickets and they're just like, it's sold out. There's just no tickets available, right? So as soon as you know that you're going to be in Granada or you're coming to Spain, book your tickets. The other thing is, and I'm going to put a link to this in our website as well, is the link to the official website. It does take a bit of finding to find the official website because there's a lot of people putting sponsored ads on that first Google search and it says official site, but it's not. And I actually went to the Spain Tourism website and went to their section on Granada, and they there had a link to the official website to get the tickets. And I've put that link. We don't get any affiliate or anything. I've just put it in our webpage because I think it's really important that people buy from them. It's so much cheaper, and you know that you're going to get the ticket, right? And the ticket includes entry into the 4 main areas of Alhambra. So let's just go through those. The first is the Nazareth Palaces area. That's one of the most famous areas, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Then you've got the Alcazaba and the El Partal, which we'll talk about, all of those, and the Generalife, okay?
Yep.
So they're the 4 main areas. And a ticket gets you entrance to all of those. But the thing that's important is the entrance into the Nazareth Palace area. That is a timed entry. So you pick which time you want to enter, and you have to be at the entrance, and it's a lineup. So you don't want to get there too late because there's people. It's every 15-minute slots they give you. So if you get there late, the people 15 minutes ahead of you are going to be in front of you in the line. But my hint is to, first thing, official tickets, cheaper, definitely. You're guaranteed to have them, print them off. You have to take your passport with you when you enter. They check that everywhere you go, not just the entrance, but throughout the site. And get the earliest entry into the Nazareth Palace as you can. We got the first one, which is 8:30. So a few things with that is, you're going to be first in. The crowds aren't so busy, and it's just a great way to wander through and not have crowds of people around you. And then you've got the rest of the day to enjoy just exploring the rest of the palace, right?
Sure. That lineup that we were in, there is the most beautiful rose bush garden
it is pretty nice.
ever see as you line up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Well, what I'd like to do is actually now just give a bit of an explanation about the architecture and also the decoration. The design and decoration of the Nazareth palaces are a continuation of Moorish architecture from early centuries, but developed their own characteristics. The combination of carefully proportioned courtyards, water features, gardens, arches, and slender columns, and intricately sculpted stucco, and the decoration give Nazareth architectural qualities that are described ethereal and intimate. Walls were built mostly in rammed earth, lime concrete, or brick, and covered in plaster, while wood was mostly on the roof, ceiling, doors, and windows. Buildings were designed to be seen from within, with decorations focused on the inside. With the Muslim culture, any wealth or prosperity was to be seen inside. The Alhambra walls are
You can't
huge.
see into Alhambra when you're walking in there.
You can't, no. The basic unit of Nazareth Palace architecture was a rectangular courtyard with a pool, fountain, or water channel at its centre. Courtyards were flanked on 2 or 4 sides by halls, often preceded by arcaded porticos. Buildings were designed with a mathematical proportional system that gives them a harmonious visual quality. The layout of the courtyard, the distribution of the windows, and the use of the water features were designed with the climate in mind, cooling and ventilating the environment in summer while minimizing cold drafts and maximizing sunlight in winter. So that's basically the design.
The first thing, as we said, because we got early ticks, we went into the Nasrid Palace. It's really easy to find your way through because they've got little arrows that tell you which way to go. The Nasrid Palace is made up of many different areas, including, like you were saying, the arches and the courtyards and all those sorts of things. It's where the sultans lived, so they had the most decorations in those places. It's not just the water features and the gardens, which I particularly love. It's not just the walls and the floors, which are amazing. It's also the ceilings, isn't it?
Yep.
And some of the ceilings in the Nasrid palaces, they're made to look like inside a cave with the stalagmites coming down, and the decoration all over those, even though now it's mostly blue and white, was once bright, had red and gold on it as well. But the detailing and the intricacy in those is amazing. The wall tiles, the coloured tiles go up halfway up the wall, and then the rest of the walls are covered in this carved tiles. You just can't believe the intricacy of it, can you?
Yeah, probably the most famous of the patios, if we're going to go into specifics, is the De los Leones.
The Plaza of the Lions, yeah?
Yeah. So it's a sculpture of 12 lions that throw jets of water and which are part of the fountain in the middle of the patio. Then there's arches that lead to the hall of the El Cerejas, and with the hall of the two sisters. These chambers where the Sultan's wives lives and are over the arches. And then you've got the hall of the ambassadors.
The dominant thing in this is the ceiling, yeah?
Yeah. This is located within the Comares Tower. The hall was the Sultan's throne hall and a place of official reception. It is known for its impressive ceiling, which is a masterpiece of Islamic carpentry and is intricate decorations.
Yeah, so I've got a beautiful photo of that as well. You just, as I said, you're just walking along and you're doing a 360, just going, oh my gosh, look at the walls, look at the floors, look at the water, look at the gardens. And then you look up and you're like, I think the best feature's up there on the ceiling. It's just so intricate. And how did they make these beautiful ceilings so long ago? And they're so perfect.
The carved stucco and mosaic tile work in Arabic were used for wall decorations, while the ceilings generally made of wood, which could be carved and painted in turn. The mosaics and wooden ceilings often featured geometric motifs. Islamic geometric patterns are one of the major forms of Islamic ornament, which tends to avoid using figurative images as it is forbidden to create a representation of an important Islamic figure. The tile work was generally used for lower walls and floors, while stucco was used for upper zones. Stucco was typically carved with arabesque motifs, geometric motifs, and septum motifs.
Yeah, and I got a really good close up of that, and it looks actually marble, but it's stucco. Yeah, but it's amazing.
It could be further sculpted into three-dimensional.
Yes,
Muqarnas Arabic inscriptions, a feature especially characteristic of Alhambra, were carved along the walls and included Quranic excerpts. So, and to me, this is the thing that stood out to me the most, because the carving and the geometric motifs and all, it's just outstanding. And that what we're talking about, the three-dimensional, that what that basically says is they put one layer on top of another layer on top of another layer. It blows your mind. And then, as I said, you've got all throughout, you've got Arabic writing, and that's to do. It's part of it is the Quran, and then there's also poetry. So we can't read it, but it just I don't know. It just sort of it's the icing on the cake of the actual decoration. So it's nothing like I've ever seen.
No, I agree. It's impressive. So once you get through the ambassadors hall with the wooden ceiling, you're sort of following the path along, and is that where we came to the courtyard where the gardens were?
Yeah.
So we couldn't go down into the gardens. We could walk around them, but there's these two stunning arched windows, and they've got all the decoration around them. And you look through that, and you're looking down onto this garden, which is geometric sort of patterns. And in the middle there, it's not a huge fountain, but it's sitting there in the middle, and there's a couple of big trees, and it's just the most, beautiful area inside all this intricate decoration. It's really beautiful.
Well, that's the Patio de Lindaraja. Yeah, as Leanne said, it's just a beautiful portico. On the southern side, you can't go into it, but it's where the original baths were.
Yeah.
But you can look up, and you do go into the bath area, and they've got these beautiful skylights, but they're shaped into stars.
Oh, that's right.
You've got all the reflection and all that sort of
shining
thing.
through. You got little stars all over.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and of course, all throughout the palace, you've got all these water features, right? Pools, and you've got
and you
fountains.
have to have the water has to be moving in some way. It can't be still. So
that's correct, because of the purification. Yeah,
they brought the water in from 6 kilometres away, all the way back then through channels
from the Sierra Nevada.
Imagine that, it's still flowing there.
Yeah, and it's got some amazing, as I understand, hydraulic system that is all part of the system that makes it work.
You think, you just look at it and think, oh yeah, that's pretty, but when you understand that water has been there for 1,000 years, and they had to channel it from 6 kilometres away,
and it still works. That's still the same system.
Yeah.
So, and for the Muslim culture, the idea of water is its purification, hygiene.
Only if it's moving.
It has to be moving, and also because of its reflective powers.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about the reflective powers in the next spot we went to.
Well, everywhere you look is just blows your mind, right?
Yeah, and you can take your time like we did, and we took lots of photos, and we wandered around, and there's some parts that are blocked off, but they're just trying to keep everybody moving in a nice flowing direction. It really helps with not people crowding around the one spot, I thought. And there's little nooks and crannies, like little rooms off the main areas and little areas in the patios that you can explore as well. So you could just move through there really quickly, or you can just take your time and wander around, look up, look down, look around. It's amazing.
Yeah, and of course along those water features too, on the edges, you've got beautiful gardens and it's just incredible. So look, we're basically through the Nazareth Palace.
And that's probably the most decorated, prettiest thing in Alhambra, and it's outstanding. Just another hint about visiting the Alhambra. If you can't get tickets in the day, they do offer over the sort of summer period nighttime visits to the Nazareth Palace, and they start from 10 o'clock at night. So you can go and see all the lights reflecting. And then that ticket then entitles you to go back the next day and see the other parts of Alhambra. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's another option that you can do. And that's all on that official website as well. Once we came out of the Nazareth Palace area, you don't really know you're out of the Nazareth Palace area because there's still these beautiful decorative arches and buildings. But this was a terrace garden area. It's called El Partal. Yes?
Correct.
And it obviously was another sultan area. And there's terrace garden. They have made that terraced garden area just stunning. And you were talking about reflective ponds, and I think that is probably the best one in the whole complex is right there.
The palace is only partly preserved, with only the tower and the portico on its north side remaining. The main remaining structure today is also known as a Palacio de Portico. Both the arched facades of the external portico and the interior walls are carved or covered with intricate stucco decorations from the time of Muhammad III. The palace still preserves its large reflective pool in front of the portico. The palace structure also includes the Torre de las Damas, the Tower of the Ladies.
I think this is probably my favourite photo that I got in there, because There was no one around. There was no wind, so the water was perfectly still on top, and there's just got the little trickle of water at one end. And I took a photo back towards the portico and the arches that you just talked about, and it's reflected in the water. It's like a mirror, and the beautiful big palm trees is there. I just loved that. I couldn't get enough of that area, and so enticing just to walk around.
It was magnificent.
It was magnificent.
It was magnificent.
Yeah.
Now,
so check out the photos, beachtravelwine.com, episode 127. Trust me, you'll be blown away. Yeah.
Now you've got two options when you get to that area, and one option is to veer off to the left, and that's where all the what I'd call market gardens, the vegetable gardens are.
Yes, we didn't do that this time.
Well, yeah, we sort of had a look, but and there's also that the actual city wall, and there's I think three towers there, yeah. But we didn't sort of go into that.
Then you can see the other area right up the top, called the Generalife, which we finished at. So, but we didn't want to do that yet because it's right at the other end from where the Alcazaba is.
So basically, you walk up towards the gardens of San Francisco. They surround the Parador, so you can actually stay in Alhambra in the Nacional de San Franciscan Parador, which was a former Franciscan convent. They feature a variety of plants, including roses, palmettos, pines, and citrus, star-shaped hedges. The star-shaped hedges were just
full of roses as well. And I got up high and took a photo down over that. So check that out as well.
Okay, so this is the part where the Christians took over. Yeah. So you've also got the Iglesia de Santa Maria. It was built on the site of the former Royal Mosque, constructed between 1581 and 1618. The church showcases Renaissance and Baroque influences. So you walk through there, and then you come across the Palacio de Carlos V.
Right.
The plan of the palace is 17 metres high.
And so this guy, he wasn't a Muslim.
No, he's actually the son of Isabel.
Yes.
And
so he's come in to build his own palace. And and it's this huge, big square building, and it's based on the Pitti Palace in Florence.
Well, the outside of it, the facades are, because it's
massive big stones, one on top of each other.
The actual height 63, and the square contains an inner circle patio. The palace has 2 floors, not counting the mezzanine, and the interior space and the staircases are also covered by a continuous of square and circle.
So when you walk in, you're walking around this big, massive square, it's not unattractive, but it's nothing like what you've just seen. And then you walk in and you're in the middle of a circle, like a bull ring almost.
Basically,
and 2 stories. It's not decorative, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's funny. The construction started in 1527, but dragged on and was left unfinished after 1637. The palace was only finished after 1923. The building was never home to a monarch and stood roofless until 1967. So no one's ever one's ever lived there.
No, but it does also have a museum, or 2 museums, doesn't it?
Yeah. Today it houses the Alhambra Museum on its ground floor and the Fine Arts Museum of Granada on its upper floor. And those stones you were talking about, they're 55 centimetres or about 22 inches in size.
That's just the width. That's not the depth of them.
No. Yeah, and as you said, it was inspired by the Medici Palace in Florence.
Now, you went in, had a quick look through the museum. I didn't. I probably should have. And you said they've got some of the original decorations as well, preserved really well there. And you said there was this gorgeous vase.
Yeah. It's called the Gazelle vase. It was incredible.
Was that from the Moorish times?
Absolutely beautiful. All of it's basically Moorish time. You got domestic ceramics. There was marble building elements, architectural wooden pieces, and these are, basically throughout those palaces that we were talking about, but they were at ground level, so you could see the intricacy of it. So
That's worth doing.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Yeah, so well worth going to see, and that's part of the ticket. So
And
it's free entry.
so after that, we had a little toilet break. They've got many places that you can go use the bathroom. They've got vending machines for food and coffee. But we chose to walk through the Puente de Vino.
We did.
They built that just for us.
Yeah.
The bridge of wine, or the wine bridge. Like, hello.
Yeah.
So we walked through that, and that's just outside basically the Alcazaba area, which was the military area.
Yeah.
And here's a little hint: there's a kiosk there, just a little round one, and they have really great coffee and nice bocadillas there, and reasonably priced. Like you'd think being inside the Alhambra to be more expensive, but I think it was cheaper in there than although Granada itself is pretty cheap. So we sat there looking up over one of the big towers of the Alcazaba, had a coffee, because we'd been, going for a few hours. It was pretty, there's a lot to see.
And it was a beautiful day,
too. It was a beautiful day. And so we headed then into the Alcazaba, and it's another area. As I said, they zap your passport every time. And when you first get into the Alcazaba, you come across, it's where the people used to live, and the military had their houses, the foundations, and there's not much of them left, but all the outlines of those. And you walk your way through that. You can go out to some of the lower towers, but the most, I guess the most impressive, and the one that most people go to, is that big tower where you walk up the stairs and you come out right on top.
Yeah, that's the Torre de la Vela.
And that's the highest point pretty much in the complex. And they've got the big flags up there. There's one of the original bells up there as well, and the views.
Yeah, the views are to die for.
Yeah, really. Like, I mean, obviously over all of Granada, and then down over the mountains, and it's just stunning. So I've got so many photos of that. You can see the other towers. You can see the foundations of the military living area. And
well, you can also observe there's 3 actual walls.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So around the actual complex. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
And again, just for more and more protection, I suppose.
And then we headed out and walked along another part of the Alcazaba on the other edge. And once again, lots of massive views. And then do you remember this? We came out and we're back to almost to the arch of the wine door. And there was like a little turnstile that we had to go through.
Oh, yeah.
And we're just like, what the heck? But we were like, why do you, like, what? It was like wrought iron. There was no counter on it. It was almost ancient. But I think it's to stop people going in that way, because they're really conscious of keeping people flowing in the right direction. Yeah,
you're probably right. I hadn't thought of it until you said it then, but that's probably what it's for.
So we've been to the Nazareth Palace, we've been to the El Partel place, we've been to Carlos V's palace, we've been to the Alcazaba, and now the last place for us to visit is the Generalife, it's called.
Yep.
Now, that's right at the other end. So, we did quite a lot of steps this day. And what we decided to do was we were going to walk down through the vegetable garden area, the agricultural area that we saw earlier, and almost close to those city walls and the towers. Yes. Yep. So, when I grow up, I want to be a gardener at Alhambra. But it's immaculate, this garden, and they're obviously so proud of it. But the vegetable gardens, you look down over them, and around the outside of them, they're hedges, but they've got like a bit of a wave in the hedges, and they've just got blocks full of different vegetables. And the one I thought was stunning was the artichoke garden. Like, people were just taking photos of that everywhere. It was just so pretty. I love walking along it.
The only word I can come up with to describe what we saw is pristine.
Yeah,
everything is. The hedges are manicured. There's not a stone out of place. I think the Generalife. Look, you can rave and rave about it, but to me, that was my favourite part.
It's English readers would read it as general life, I think, but it's it's
a summer palace,
right? So it's a summer palace of Sultan. So it's outside the actual walls of the Alhambra itself, and it's a Sultan summer palace. And I think if you've seen pictures of Alhambra, there's obviously the patio of the lions and the Alcazaba, but the one I think that's probably the most popular is the photos of the Generalife, the garden there. You walk into the Generalife and it has so many cypress pines, and they're basically like a maze.
Correct.
And they're obviously centuries old. I said to you, oh, my grandkids would love to play hide and seek here. If you stick to the path down the outside, you can actually you can walk in through the cypress pines at the beginning. We sort of walk down the outside a little bit because once again you are looking back over the Alhambra. It's a viewpoint that you wouldn't get anywhere else in the city. You're looking first over the city walls, over the gardens, over El Partel, and in the back is the military area, the Alcazaba. Wow. And you're seeing all this through arbors of roses.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I just thought, oh, well, that must be it. Even though we've been here before, I'd forgotten about everything that was in the Generalife. So then we wandered in through sort of the level that we're on through the cypress, getting some photos of the fountains and the gardens and just enjoying the pergolas with the wisteria hanging down and basically following a nice slow walk through. And then you come across like the first sort of courtyard, I guess, but it's got like the pool down the middle or the water down the middle and look like almost wildflowers, but they just all the different colours and so pretty under the trees. And then they've got the little hedges, but they're in pots and they're like round balloons all sitting there together. And then you look back down the pond and there's the arches of the portico and oh my gosh, it's mind-blowing.
And all you're seeing too in the pools is a reflection
of the gardens.
And it blows your mind.
And you keep walking and you come to another little area and there's a big arch with a lion above it and you think, is this it? And then I come to a little courtyard and there's these steps going to a building and I said, Delilah, I'm just about over steps, should we go in there? Of course you got to go in there. Mm-hmm. And the steps weren't that big. And then you come across basically what was the Sultan's palace area, the recreation area, and it's another whole garden and it's another row of cypress trees and fountains and porticos. I mean, wow, it just never stopped. It was almost like, I don't know how many levels it's on, but you're probably 3 or 4 levels you're going up the Generalife, and every time it's just as beautiful, if not more beautiful than the next one. And then you come across, it's sort of, before you sort of head out, it's almost at the top, Alcazaba up the tower was the high point at that end, and you're almost at the high point of the Generalife now, and you're at the staircase which has the water on both sides. Now that's one of the original that was built like centuries ago, and it's called
the water staircase. So okay. It is the oldest in the garden and is divided in 3 flights, each with a fountain and handrail that are channeled with running water. The staircase is surrounded by laurels that join their crowns and form a vault.
So you're walking up, you come to the little area where you stop, the water's running down and there's a little fountain and you go to the next one. It's really pretty and you just think they did this centuries ago, like 1,000 years ago. You just can't believe it.
Yeah, no, look, another thing that really got me, another feature was it's actually the patio of the aqueduct. And that's 48.7 metre long and 12.8 metre wide and is the most important part of the Generalife. The channel is surrounded by several little jets and has a stone basin at each end. The rest of the patio is occupied by myrtle bushes, orange trees, cypress and rose bushes. And then, of course, the importance of that is what Leanne mentioned earlier regarding how they channeled the water from 6K away, and this is the original.
And I think that's the one I meant. That is probably the most photographed because they've got the little jets coming up and crossing over, and you look down, which is 7 meters long, and just the beautiful laurels and things down the side. And we were there in spring. It was just beautiful.
It was perfect.
It was,
And we've got to tell the people that this is the second time we've been to the Alhambra, and I got to say, I'm so glad we went back for the second time. I remembered more about it now than I would have after the first time. So just one thing, just to go back, when we walked up to the Alhambra from the old town. When you go in,
We didn't say how to get there. I
Yeah.
guess is
yeah.
know,
So you can get there. There's a whole bunch of ways.
Mm.
You can drive your car because there is a car park up there. You can catch a bus, or you can walk.
You can get taxi too.
And you can get a taxi too.
There's a whole lot of taxis right there at Plaza Nueva, and I'm sure they're there to take you up.
And I reckon it'd be lucky to cost you €5.
Yeah, of course. But we walked because we were early.
Yeah. But when you walk into
you go through the arch at the bottom before you go up, yes.
Yeah, and you're walking basically through parklands. Now, you can either veer right or left.
So there's a road that goes up and there's a path on the left and the right. Yeah. We went right.
Yeah.
Should have gone left.
We should have gone left.
They do all end up at the same place, but the left one is the more direct one. And that will get you to the first car park. There's an area there that's an exit. You can't go in there. And then you go up, right up to the top.
Yeah, so...
And just keep following the signs. There's a big red sign that says main entrance here, main entrance here. Just keep going till you come across that.
Yeah, but it's pretty much one sign. Before you get to that one sign...
You don't really know where you're going.
You've got no idea where you're going. So just stay on the left, and as Leanne said, you'll get to a sign that'll say Nazar's Palace, El Patel...
Just keep going.
Just keep going, following that, and you'll get there. There's an information centre there when you get to the entrance. Make sure you get a map. They're free.
The stuff. Yeah. Like, obviously, you've got your tickets. You don't know where to go, what time or anything, and you just go and ask. You show them your tickets, and they just said, no, this is where you go. They're all very, very helpful.
And there's plenty of them.
Yeah, plenty
There's
of help.
Plenty of them. But do you want to tell the people how you bought the tickets?
Yeah, I will. Okay, so... me and tickets in the Alhambra. There's a whole story to last time we were there, but I won't go into that one. What I did do was I buy a lot of our tours and tickets through a company called Viator, and I bought tickets through that. And now they cost something just over $200 something. I'd already bought those. So that would be what, like €100? Let's say it costs about €100. And I was trying to get a guided tour, and that one said a guided tour now, and it said no refunds, but I bought it because we were going. Now, what it also said when they sent me the information, they said it was an audio guide, so there was no actual guide. And they said, meet at this time and you'll be told when you would get into the Nazareth Palace, right? So, and then I started to read some reviews, and some of the reviews were saying, I booked this tour and the day before they cancelled and I couldn't get tickets. Now, and I read that a couple of times and I'm like, oh my gosh, going on my past history of tickets to Alhambra, I don't want to risk that. So I did the research and found the official website through the Spanish tourism place, and I bought tickets online. So this stage we got 4 tickets for the same day. However, these tickets were €18 each. So, compare that, so €36 compared to 100. Right?
Yeah, well, I remember you talking to me about it.
Yeah, because I said to you, I'm worried. What if we don't get in? I'll buy these, and we may have wasted €36.
And we said, on the big picture, that's nothing.
But I also got the earliest time slot, which I thought was a great idea. Anyway, turns out I'd sort of forgotten about that, to be honest, and I thought I thought we're just going to go the early one anyway. The day before, I get an email from Viator telling me that they weren't able to go ahead with the tour. It wasn't confirmed. They didn't have tickets, and they were going to refund me the money.
Which they did refund.
Yeah, straight away. So that's wonderful. But the point is, if I'd have thought that we were only going to get tickets from them, we would never have got in there. And I think a lot of people buy their tickets online. And it's not just that company. I think it's quite a few companies. And I've read reviews. I mean, obviously, most people get to go, but just beware. And I would go the official website every time.
Yeah, without question. One of the main reasons we actually went to Granada was purely to see
Alhambra.
What we got was even more than what we thought.
Yeah.
Because, Granada's just an amazing place.
Now, of course, we walked up there and we're going to walk down, and just to tell people if you are walking, another way to leave is, instead of heading back down the same way, you can sort of veer left. And if you look on your map, it's easy to see. And we walked down through the Jewish quarter, which was a really nice walk as well.
And that was a tip the receptionist at the
hotel
told us.
Yeah. And so once you leave the Generalife, you leave through, you don't have to leave the whole complex. You can go back in and wander around. But there's just some more beautiful garden areas around the entrance. And there was one I particularly liked that was sort of purples and yellows and with a view. And I took a photo of that and actually shared it. And I think Granada Tourism reshared on it. Like, it was just such a pretty photo, such a nice view. There's a restaurant in there. It's attached to the hotel. You could go and have, we did this last time, go and have some lunch. Once you do leave, though, just outside the main entrance, there's a lovely little bar restaurant where we had a drink, and that was sort of just a nice way to debrief, wasn't it? Just to sit there and just think, wow, how lucky we were to have been to Alhambra.
And if you are going to walk, just be aware you're walking uphill. It is all uphill
to get there.
Yeah.
So comfy shoes.
And they do say for people that have mobility problems that they do cater for it. There'd be limited areas that you would be able to see, I would imagine.
Yes, I agree.
I think if anybody is coming to Spain, put it on the list for sure.
I mentioned the website. I've got photos of the views. I've got photos of the palace, El Partel, the reflection, gardens. Honestly, go and have a look. I have to say so myself. I got some really nice photos.
You did?
Yeah.
You always do.
I do think it's worth having a look at the photos for sure. And if you're really interested, you can head up to Beach Travel Wine on Instagram, and up the top, look at Granada in the story highlights. It'll be right there at the front somewhere. And I've got videos of all this as well, which, you get a bit more of an idea. Before we finish, I just would like to give a shout out to a girl called Gem, maybe Gemma. She sent me a message this week, and she said, "Hello, I just wanted to say I've been loving listening to your podcast, driving to and from work and cooking dinner at night. It's been really helpful." She's planning a trip to Croatia and Italy. She's booked a table at the Panama restaurant, and she's added the cave bar to her itinerary. So she's 25 and she's traveling with her 17-year-old brother. So how cool is that? We've been able to help. All right. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll be back in our next episode somewhere else in España. Hasta luego.
Adios.